All right. I'm so pleased to bring you the very first Conversations with Elle. I've had the privilege of getting to know Ms. Dianne Schwartz over the past couple of months. She's an excellent writer, spokesperson, and is heavily involved in charities for a very long time. I will, of course, defer to her to speak further about that. But can I go ahead and say, welcome, Dianne. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be your first guest.
Absolutely. I couldn't be more excited. So I'll just go ahead and launch into it because I have a ton of questions I'd love to ask you. The first is you wrote a book. It's called Whose Face is in the Mirror. Excellent, critically acclaimed. I had the pleasure of reading it myself. Can you go ahead and speak a bit about it?
What it was my experience with domestic violence, and not so much what I experienced, but how I broke free and continued to grow and find a new way of living and thinking, you know, that thought pattern that takes you into that anyway, you know, the way you're raised. And so I had a lot of stuff that I needed to get rid of, a lot of voices from my childhood. And I just wanted to write it and share it with the women in the local shelter. And the next thing I knew, it was being published by Hay House. So it was truly a miracle. It's just been it was a labor of love writing it. And it's been quite a journey.
I really wanted to speak to you right now at this juncture because, as you and I know, October is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. As important as breast cancer awareness is, it does tend to overshadow that this month, I think. And, I was wondering, do you think, other than, some of the more general causes, money and funding, do you think the topic of domestic abuse and like in my book, The Fall, dating abuse, something of a precursor to that, do you think it's because it's an uncomfortable topic that maybe it gets a little bit silenced in the public forum?
No, because there's so much of it out there in the news and people are talking about it. I believe it's because people do not see battered women as victims. They don't see them as helpless. They think you could pack up, you can leave, you can walk out. This is why we have more shelters for animals in North America than we do for battered women. And it's just because people don't understand that you can't always, a lot of times your life is in danger when you do try to leave. And a woman's life is more in danger usually when she does leave. And so meaning one that I used to be, we're not seen as helpless. We're just seen as like, put your big girl panties on and deal with it and leave and go to a shelter. And there's, as you probably know, as anyone who's had any kind of violence in their life, dating or otherwise, it's not always that easy.
No, it's not. It's not. And you're not in an emotional place to do it half of the time. And like you said, sometimes you're not physically in a place where you feel safe trying to leave. No, my book, The Fall, was written very much inspired by my own experiences as well. And it was a very, to me, an insidious kind of almost disease that would fester over the course of many years because we weren't married and I could leave and I knew that I was very tethered to the person I'd become and what he made me feel like. And it was very difficult because even I couldn't answer for myself, why am I not just walking away?
There are strong women that end up with abusers. But I didn't have a sense of self, of who I was. That's why my book title is Whose Face is in the Mirror, because when I looked in the mirror, the reflection said what my parents said I wasn't, and what I'd never amount to, and what the abuser was saying about me. And so there was no real Dianne. And I had to go to therapy. A lot of people don't want to do that, and I understand that. But I had a lot of stuff to uncover and get rid of, and I just knew that I needed to do that. And I also knew I needed a male therapist because I was so confused that I felt like if a woman said this isn't right, then it was kind of like, well, I don't know, to me, you're a woman, so you don't really know what you're talking about, because I didn't know what I was talking about. So I needed a male therapist to tell me, this is wrong. This isn't how you treat a wife.
Right. No, that's an interesting take. I too had therapy. It was a woman, but I think at that point I would have taken anything. I just had so much to say. She didn't really get a word in edgewise, I think, for a couple of sessions. But I'm a big proponent of it as well. What kind of feedback have you gotten from the people that have read the book? Have you found that they've been very thankful for it? Did it make them uncomfortable? What have you heard?
Mostly that it mirrors their own experience, that you are writing what I've been living. Your thoughts were exactly the same as mine have been. My husband, my boyfriend, said the same things that your ex-husband said to you, the same. Some of them would even email me and go, you mentioned a name that he called you, and it was so filthy I didn't want to put it in the book. And they'd go like, could you tell me what the name was? So I would email them back and tell them, I go, oh, that's what my husband calls me too. So they're not original.
And I applaud the fact that you were able to both write it and then publish it and stand behind it. That, however, is not all that you've done. You were also founder and president of Educating Against Domestic Violence. Can you speak a little bit about that, the journey that took you into that organization and what it did for you?
Well, I had the need to reach women at a deeper level, through the internet, but I actually had, the bricks and mortar, and I was heavily involved in the shelter, not only on the board, but at volunteering, to talk to the women, facilitating support groups. And then I started, my husband moved me because of, his career. We moved again. And so then I just went to my website to that. And then I started noticing that there were some safety issues for the women too, because they don't clear the history on the computer, and the guy's always watching what they do. And so now, basically my website just tells you where you can email me, and I will answer questions on a site called allexperts.com. And they take care of all the safety measures, and you can write under, a different name, and they protect the people that need help. So I've gotten questions on that site from all over the world, because my book is in Indonesia, and it's in Czechoslovakia and stuff like that. So it's spreading, and to me that was just an easier way to do it, and internationally too.
Okay, just to lighten the mood a bit and get to know you as a person a little better, I've got a couple sort of rapid fire questions that I'll throw at you, and just get to know who Dianne is a little more. So,
Okay.
who is your favorite author?
Lisa C.
Favorite movie?
Grease.
Ooh, good one. Favorite writing spot?
Right here.
Nice. Favorite smell?
Oh, gosh. It's probably my grandbabies after they've had a bath.
Favorite villain? Real or fictional?
My ex-husband? Oh, no. Okay.
Great answer. So if you could have dinner with any three people, real, fake, dead, alive, who would it be?
Ronald Reagan, because I just think he'd be fun to talk to, and I liked him. Eleanor Roosevelt, because I just thought she was a wonderful person, very driven, that she could help me with any problem I ever had. And Jesus Christ, so he could answer a lot of questions that I have.
That is a great call. Great call. I'm definitely on board with Jesus Christ. I have way too many questions that I want answered. Too many. So if generations from now somebody comes across your book or your name, and maybe they can't access anything but one sentence or phrase, your legacy, your message, what would that be?
Well, my favorite saying has always been, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it twice.
I could have been reminded of that a couple of times in life and probably been better off. It's really logical, but really hard to live by, isn't it?
It's true.
Oh, man. Is there anything that we haven't covered before I have to let you go that you'd like the opportunity to say right now?
But I'd like to know more about your book, actually. I'm still waiting for my copy.
Oh, well, thank you. My book, it's called The Fall, an autobiography of an alter ego, and it just recently made it up to Amazon, and I had to do a second revision. So the marketing push begins now. But it is, as I said, it's inspired by my life, but it's a fictionalized memoir, and it follows a young girl's trials and tribulations as she falls in love with somebody who, at a very young age, who entices her in all the ways of the dark side, and so she willingly follows him, as the relationship gets more and more abusive, and she gets more and more lost in this world, an alter ego emerges, and at the beginning of the book, you realize that there's probably only 24 hours for one of them to survive, but she has to go back and piece together all of the broken memories to try and see if there's any other way out. And it sounds really, really dark and sad and terrible, and it is kind of, it's dark, but it is at the end of the day about empowerment, finding yourself, remembering who you are. And so hopefully people will walk away from the fall with a lot of the same feelings and feedback that they did when they read Whose Face is in the Mirror. I very much admire the work that you've done, and thank you so much for putting that out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.